Welcome, Micah.
Reg.
Coffee for Closers.
Coffees for Closers.
Man,
Episode 5.
Episode 5. Cheers for that.
Cheers.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. We've been busy.
missed this.
We've been out closing. So,
So now it's time for coffee.
Naturally.
Duh.
That's the way it goes. Close
And
coffee.
as since the last time we've done this, Coffee for Closers is getting some fans.
Yeah, actually, we have copycats.
Yeah, well, it's certainly it's called inspired by.
Inspiration. The greatest form of admiration is imitation.
That's what I hear.
That's what I hear.
So our friends to the south have whining for winter. No.
Wine.
No. That's right. Wine
is
for winners.
for winners,
That's
or
right.
whining is for winners.
That's right.
They're
That's
similar.
right. So we
Yeah.
got to hurry up and provide some more content. So make sure that they have some content. to
Right.
provide
Well, I
for
mean,
their
we did
team,
Edge,
too.
and naturally they did Edge right
Yeah, of
after me.
course.
So I
Yeah.
assume they need some more stuff.
So we got to get
Support
this
people.
out.
We got to get this out. They need
tonight.
our content.
Yeah, of
All right,
course.
let's get it out. It just means we're following
We're just
people.
kidding. Good job, California Central. We're going to start following your material too. I'm sure we can exchange some good ideas. Well, what are we drinking here, my
We
friend?
are drinking a Guatemalan Antigua coffee from Cuvée Coffee in Austin, Texas.
Texan
So-
Guatemalan coffee.
Right. You know, we were in Texas about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So Diana picked
This
me
is
up.
like old. Then.
Yeah, and actually I was just saying it's a little bit watered down kind of stale because the bean
It's 2 weeks
was
old.
just 2 weeks old, which is ridiculous.
It's outrageous.
It was a nice coffee until it got 2 weeks old. I'm serious, 2 weeks old.
I know.
But, before that, it was spicy with a slight hint of floral. The body was medium.
You know what I like about it?
What's that?
Tastes like coffee.
Tastes like coffee.
I love it.
Just 2 weeks old.
Good. Well, so our first series in Coffee for Closers, we went over Edge and the different
Edge.
breakdown of it.
Employer conversation.
So today, thinking of ideas we can chat about, how about we tackle some prospecting?
Let's do prospecting. This sounds good.
So when I say prospecting, Micah, what does that mean to you?
You know, Rich, when I think prospecting, I think of how important it is to have a strategy behind prospecting. I
Okay.
think so many people are great technicians at prospecting. Like, they either are really good at pounding the pavement, or they're really good at making lots of dials on Monday, or whatever, right? But that's all they have, really. And they don't think of prospecting as the hole in the machine that it should be.
Okay.
When I think good prospecting, I think you are a prospecting machine. So you have a system to your prospecting.
Sure.
So that system probably should look like, especially in this market, a solid Monday morning marketing. You dump 300 new leads on the top of your funnel. All week you have calendared. New or follow-ups, or depending on where you are in your business.
300 activities. Okay.
Right, 300 dials on elevation marketing. Now, if you have 300 warm people you can call, bravo. Call 300 people on Monday. What I'm saying is dump a lot of raw data at the top of the funnel on Mondays.
Sure.
Now, the rest of the week, you need to have elevation marketing drops scheduled into your week so that you can be out setting employer conversation. And now the elevation marketing's crucial to not just following up, right? Just following up and just checking in
Right.
means you're bringing no value to an employer. Like, imagine you as an employer having a salesperson come and say, "Hey, I'm just checking in." Like, that means, "Hey, I brought you no value today," is all
Right.
it means.
Sure.
Whereas the elevation marketing is a rapport building process where you're bringing the employer value and content. And, hey, I thought this applied to you and your business and your industry.
And we're going to spend a whole segment, probably multiple segments on Elevate Marketing.
Oh, yeah, I could.
It's a big part
It's
of
massive.
Yeah,
It's
and
massive.
it's exactly the strategy you mentioned that is vital.
So, I mean,
building that.
Right. And of course, the real goal of elevation marketing is to establish trust so you can have an amazing employer conversation. And now the amazing employer conversation always sets up a solid referral, so you can get a referral out of the wish list and spirit letter conversation. And that's the machine I talk about. Lots of raw data dumped on the top. Pick your favorites, elevate the ever-living devil out of it, get a referral out of that, and dump the referral back on the top. So eventually your Monday morning marketing, you can walk in, your goal can be set 15 appointments. You should be able to call 20 people, maybe 20, maybe 30, and set 15 appointments. Just bam,
Probably
bam,
at least
bam.
30, but yeah.
Because what I'm saying is your pipeline eventually becomes so full of warm leads from
Right.
all the referrals and all the wish lists and spirit letter that you've done, that you actually prospecting eventually is less and less painful.
Right. Not only less painful, less time.
Right.
Because you don't have the luxury of having that much time because you're servicing your accounts, you have enrollments, you have employer presentations,
Right.
you have open enrollment strategy meetings, you've got service binder meetings. You've got all these other things you've got to get done in a week.
Spot
So
on.
out of just sheer effectiveness, you need to minimize your prospecting time so that you can actually spend that other time in the sales side of things.
Right.
And one thing I'd heard, and I always think about this, is that an amateur's lead is a cold call.
Right.
A professional's lead is a referral. And that's not an indictment at all, right? You don't get punished for that, but it is a reality. So if you're starting off, you're going to start off like most people are, and that's probably going to be a cold call. But with a sound ethic and process and system in place, you can boil all those up to a much warmer point.
Right.
And of course that makes a lot of difference. And I'll make a bolder statement. It is the only act in our business that'll determine your success or your utter demise in our business. And if you do not have time in your calendar every single week consistently to drive business, you'll be out of business. And it's that one thing that'll, if it's not embraced, it'll certainly chase somebody off. And it's nobody's favorite thing, right? And that's what I always get frustrated with it from associates. Prospecting and cold calling is what I mean.
Right.
Everybody goes through the emotional anxiety of that because it's awkward. You're putting yourself out there. You can be rejected. You will be rejected.
Right.
And it becomes such a thing. And so many people assume that people in our organization had an easier time at that, and that's just simply not the case. I mean, we all have our challenges of that, and you just do it anyway, right? Why?
Right.
Because my business is important, my end result is important, and if this is the wall I have to walk through to get it, then so be it.
Right.
But prospecting has almost a negative connotation to it nowadays because so many people assume it's cold calling, but people forget who prospectors originally were. And they were from this area, right? We're talking gold rush time, right? The prospectors were the ones, and those guys were the adventurers, right?
Right.
Moving across country, getting yourself a pickaxe and a gold and a pan to filter for gold, and it was great. But those are the prospectors.
Right.
So sometimes it's just that mental shift of what you're actually doing. Are you cold calling? You're gonna go find some gold today.
Yeah, go mine for some gold.
Get some gold, right?
And plus, we actually have it a lot easier than they did, right? I will
Right.
never ask my associates to get a pickaxe.
Yeah, or move across country with
Right.
on a donkey and a mule. Right?
It's easy, guys.
It's easy. And the only thing I'd say is, it's got to be in your calendar. If it's not in your
Right.
calendar, it's probably not going to happen. So when in your calendar are you doing that? And then to Micah's point, how are you doing that, right? And I think so many people do make the mistake where I only telemarket or I only canvas. No, we're marketers, right?
Do
There's
it all.
days where you do the phone. There's days when you follow up on email. There's days when you drop it in person. There's days when you specifically surgically target a set list through an Elevate strategy.
Right.
Right? And you have your Future 50 or your Fisher 50. And that's what you're focusing on, constantly elevating and pushing through the pipeline. And the goal is to just constantly develop that lead
Right.
closer and closer to the end point.
Right. You mentioned something there that I think is crucial. You said calendar, which is so crucial. All of us, we came to this business for various different reasons, but lots of us came here to be our own boss.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that there is not a boss. That means you are your boss, right?
Right.
So we just have to.
You're not bossless.
Look at your calendar. Yeah, you are your boss,
Yeah.
but so often we don't realize that, so we leave ourselves bossless, and that's where our businesses go,
Right.
off track. So look at your calendar as if you are your boss, and ask yourself, is this what I would want my employee, to be doing?
Yeah.
And I mean, if it's not, guys, relentlessly schedule more and more prospecting into you and your calendar.
Yeah. Joe B said something early on in my career that kind of stuck with me, and it said, if we were to grab your calendar, right, in a court of law, can we convict you on the evidence in your calendar that you're a salesman? Right? Based on your activity, right? Is it in your calendar?
Right.
Are you doing what a salesperson does, which is driving sales?
Right.
And go ahead.
And also when you calendar things, I think you put things at the right time. Like I know that I had calendared into my calendar as an associate that I sent my emails between 4 and 6 a.m.
Right.
Because that's red time. That's where I cannot be out driving new sales. Well, for the most part, unless I'm hitting
Was
donut
that
shops.
4 to 6 a.m. PST while you were in Texas?
No, that would have been Central Time in Texas.
Wow.
Right.
In the actual times when you were in?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, actual
Really
time
bird.
zones. But what I got with that, man, is I was able to do all my admin in red
Right.
time, and I'm not driving business in green time.
Right. Absolutely.
So that.
a couple things too, right? And we'll do a time management piece on roles and responsibilities and how you put that time in your calendar. And I think we could probably, spend a lot of time on that as well.
That's another episode.
But certainly one of my areas of best practice is make sure you're chunking your time, right? It's torturous when you do a couple at a time. You never allow yourself to get into the groove of actually working through and getting better in the moment. Like, when's the best time to schedule an appointment?
What do you mean? I think it depends on which industry.
Not actually time. Like, when is the best time for you to schedule an appointment?
Right after you schedule an
appointment. Of course. Why?
Got you. Because you just had a victory.
Yeah. Right. You're exuding confidence. Right. You're on. Game on.
Yeah.
And so many times people, I think, fall short right when they're getting into the zone. Right. And like, my goal today was 2 appointments. They get those 2 and like, well, I did it. It's 3:00. I'm done.
You could have gotten 9 more.
And it took them 6 hours to get to 2 appointments. I bet they could do probably 6 more appointments in 2 hours.
Right.
Because they're in, right? They finally got to that zone. So chunk those time together.
Right.
I think is a good point.
Just a recommendation on that. If you know you have a win in the day, put it first. Like if you know you have 4 warm calls to make those first on Monday and let them all be victories, and then go smash the rest of the day.
Yeah. That'll certainly help gain that momentum.
Right, yeah, mentally you've already won 4 times.
Yeah, it's great. Great idea. Couple quick best practices I wanted to mention. One is so much of the emotion of prospecting comes in because of the rejection and dealing with that.
Right.
Whereas if you approach your prospecting as nothing more than sorting your leads, it's so much easier. And what I mean by that is we have a strategy for a no, right?
Right.
We have a strategy for a follow-up with me. We have a strategy for a yes. We have a strategy for a no response. So your only job is to stack those leads into each of those outcomes, because once you have that stack, then take that stack and go do what you do with your yeses. Take your stack and do what you do with your no's. And there's not as much emotion to it if you just consider, I've got to get through all these leads today, and I'm just going to sort them into the right pot.
You're talking about telemarketing day.
Whatever it is. Telemarketing, canvassing. I think
true.
it's the same with canvassing if you walk in, but certainly on telemarketing day, of course. Because if you're just sorting your leads and then we have a strategy to follow up with it, I think it diminishes some of that.
Right.
And the thing to remember is, and so often, I think some of the challenges is we think everyone needs this product. We love it. We're passionate about it. We love our brand name, and we think that's going to open doors for us. And it's not, right? The sale actually happens when you get a no. So if you're expecting yeses, right, maybe that's part of the challenge is the mindset. No, you need to expect a no. That's when sales begin, as a matter of fact. You can't have a sale if they say yes. Right? You can have a lowercase sale, but it's not sales. So the idea behind that is realize you've got to be able to accommodate many times, many approaches.
Right.
Because 2%, Chet Holmes said this in The Ultimate Sales Machine. I know you're a fan of that book. I love that book. 2% of people are buying right now. So if you're out there all day trying to get this activity going, when you approach them, 2 out of 100 are actually looking for something like this, right? And that might even be a little generous.
That's pushing it.
But the idea is, if that's the case, that's a 98% failure rate, right? That's going to drive you out of the business if you were expecting to have 100 yeses.
Right.
But if you have a strategy to manage that process, and this is the example I give is, let's say you're flying to Vegas. You pull into Vegas and the guy goes, psst, psst, come here. And not that I encourage you to talk to strangers that go, psst, psst, come here. But the guy goes, hey, I used to work for this casino, and they screwed me out of money, and I'm trying to get them back. I want to tell you that I programmed these machines. I was the architect of these machines. This slot machine right here, I can tell just because I know these slot machines. This one's rated to pay out at around 150 to 200 pulls. Right, so you know that it's not at 150 exactly. It's somewhere between 150 and 200. Right. So if that guy tells you, right, and it's a dollar slot machine, you're gonna spend $150 before this thing is even close to paying out. Right. You're not as upset when the first 149 are no's, right?
Oh no,
because that's what you're expecting. That's what you're expecting, right? Now, once you start getting to 195, 200, you wonder if you got taken, but. The idea is you can't even complain until it reaches 150. Right. So if the average sale is not going to happen until 6 or 8 approaches, you can't be upset when the first 5 are no's. Right. So again, as long as you have a strategy to manage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, those approaches. Right. So that's what Elevate is all about. Right. So we'll spend some time on that as well.
More time, definitely.
Yeah, and I think Elevate's important.
When it comes to elevation marketing and all of that, there's the whole strategy. Getting a no on telemarketing day or on the first approach is almost a good thing.
Right.
Because then you actually, they've allowed you the time to come back 4 or 5 more times and build rapport.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they will trust you so much more if you go through a 4 or 5 hit cycle in the initial employer conversation. If you've had 4 or 5 hits to build rapport versus just 1 hit to build
Right,
rapport,
of course.
you're going to have a better
A lot of
discovery.
pressure, right? To really perform on that one.
Right. I hope you're good.
Right.
But if you have 4 or 5 goes to build rapport, you're more likely to get a better discovery, and by chance have a more relevant value add, and by that have a lot higher chance, I think, to get a referral.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So anyways,
and last best practice I'll kind of throw out there. It's something I read in a book a while ago, and I really appreciate it. It's a different industry, the same industry, different product line. And translated to our business, I think what this translates to is you want to constantly have 15 appointments in your calendar.
Constantly.
Your next 3 to 4 weeks, you want to have 15 appointments lined up, right?
Right.
What does that mean in our metrics? Conservatively, how many groups do you close out of 15?
I mean,
conservatively,
I think the amateur closes 3 of those.
Three out of 15 right now, right? There's still, you're going to refeed that pipeline with other ones that need follow up and things like that. But 3 right now.
Spot on.
And based on our average sale, right, that's going to be anywhere from about $8,000 to $12,000 in commissions. Right. And if you know you've got $8,000 to $12,000 in commissions coming over the next 3 to 5 weeks, you're not worried about anything.
No.
Right? There's nothing you can't do with $10,000 in your pocket, right? Except maybe buy a house.
Right. You have to sell swagger, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're
not only do you have sales swagger, you've got a proactive pipeline. Right. So, but where does that happen? Right. It happens with your lead indicator being you want to have 15 appointments constantly. So if I'm going to run 4 appointments this week, I got to find 4 more appointments because every Monday should be your check-in, right? So when I come in Monday next week, how many do I have in my future 3 or 4 weeks? Do I have 15? No, then I got to get that locked in today.
Got you.
Right. So if you always have 15 appointments in your pipeline, you're going to be okay.
Spot on.
Right. And that's something to work towards. You don't get there right away, but if you defend that 15 and don't let your weekend without it happening, you've got a much higher likelihood of success, and you've got posturing and swagger. Right. You don't have stinky commission breath.
Nasty.
Right?
It's worse than
It
garlic.
smells horrible. Yeah. And they can smell that when you sound desperate and you feel desperate. And if you've got 15 appointments in your pipeline, right, you don't have the desperation play. Right. It's consultative. It's relaxed. It's proactive, and it's the right conversation.
Right.
Anyway, so prospecting is way more than just cold calling.
Way more. It's a process. It's a strategy. At least done right. So what I got out of this video, Rich, is prospecting is a strategy, and there's really a lot to it. There's a lot of upfront activity. You've got to fill the pipeline, and once you fill the pipeline, consistently fill the pipeline. That's why it's weekly. It's Monday. Go fill the pipeline, calendar it, do it weekly. And I expect to do 5 to 8 hits to make sure you get an appointment. Yeah,
absolutely.
Spot on.
And it's something Adam used to always say. And with consistent activity comes consistent results.
Right.
So if you're not getting consistent results, I think we've identified the problem.
Spot on.
So again, come see us if we can help in any way. Your coordinators as well. We've got the same goal in mind: you being abundant and profitable and happy and with us for a long time. So Micah, cheers.
Cheers.
That was awesome. Till next time.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.